Good morning everybody, my name is Alex and I spend a lot of time on this channel discussing the existence of God rather than the political consequences of belief in one, for reasons I've detailed in the past. Today, however, I'd like to address a more pragmatic argument. That is, the view that religion, whether real or not, offers some real utility and usefulness to its adherents. This is the idea that even if it is all just wishful thinking, religion still offers much benefit to people and should be respected for this reason. You'll have heard this debate before. It's more in the realm of the politician than the philosopher, and is probably the most emotive topic of the entire God debate. Now, to tackle this, I've enlisted the help of a brilliant fellow YouTuber who you should all immediately subscribe to. He goes by Genetically Modified Skeptic, and you'll be hearing from him shortly. And a sister video to this one is on his own channel, in which I continue my part of the discussion. Even if you lose interest in this particular topic, you simply must go and look at his content. So let's not waste any time here. Let's get into this. Consider, if you will, the fact that some form of religious belief demonstrably permeates effectively all cultures in all places at all times. It's also not a new phenomenon. People have worshipped rocks and animals and spirits and stars since before records began. And what does this all suggest? Well, for religious belief to survive and prosper in such a manner, it seems only logical to suggest that it must have some kind of evolutionary benefit. If it didn't, or was harmful in some way, how could we possibly explain its prominence? Here we have the first argument I want to cover, the argument for evolutionary utility. Basically, that religion must have been useful to us and served such an important purpose that we couldn't dispense of it or do without it, or else it wouldn't have survived the evolutionary lottery. How can we reconcile religion being beneficial, perhaps even necessary, to human evolutionary survival, with the belief that it's harmful in some way and a detriment to society, as many critics of religion maintain? And why on earth would we suggest removing something that has so significantly affected the evolution of man? Well, here's the thing. Before looking for answers, we should consider that we might actually be asking the wrong question. Remember, evolution is a complex process and things aren't always as they seem. Religion itself, in fact, is a massively complicated social phenomenon, and so to simply ascribe it evolutionary advantages may be a little short-sighted of us. There is a very plausible possibility that religion, rather than being a product of evolution, is what Richard Dawkins has called a byproduct of evolution. That is to say, religion could be a manifestation of a very different evolutionary trait. I'll relay Dawkins' own example to you. Have you ever seen a moth commit suicide? It happens all the time. Moths will seemingly intentionally and completely of their own accord fly into candle flames and burn to death. Now, of course, this isn't exactly beneficial behavior, and yet there seems to be some evolutionarily built-in tendency for them to do this. What's going on here? Well, Dawkins has suggested that this is an example of an evolutionary byproduct. Moths use light sources to navigate. To ensure they're travelling in a straight line, they'll keep the sun or the moon at a constant angle in their vision whilst flying. And because these light sources are so far away, they stay at the same angle. And moths didn't evolve in a world with artificial light and candles. If they try to use a near flame to navigate in the same way, it will rapidly change angle, causing the poor thing to circle the flame until it reaches the centre and burns alive. This is an evolutionarily beneficial trait within moths, causing a rather unfortunate side effect. We could ask then, what is the evolutionary benefit of moth suicide? But of course, this is the wrong question. The real question to ask is, what is the separate underlying evolutionary trait that is causing this bizarre and detrimental behaviour? In the same way, rather than asking, what is the evolutionary benefit of religion, it may be more sensible to look for what could be causing religion as itself a bizarre and detrimental side effect of society. It may just be that religion is evolutionarily harmful, but a worthwhile sacrifice for whatever underlying beneficial trait is causing it to occur. But with that noted and out of the way, I would maintain that even if religion was explicitly beneficial to the evolution of humanity and not just a side effect, it wouldn't matter. This doesn't mean that it's useful to us today. The theory of evolution is a way to describe events that occurred to bring about the variety of life on Earth. It's not prescriptive. In other words, it tells us how we got here, not how we should conduct ourselves today. This would be social Darwinism, which commits David Hume's is-ought fallacy. The key thing to note here is that just because something is natural doesn't make it right. And even if it helped us in the past, it doesn't mean that it would help us now. For example, rape is an extremely natural act and very likely played a large help in our evolution. but we can all recognize that this doesn't mean that we should be doing it today. In fact, we positively abhor it. Daniel Dennett, in an interview once, gave the example of the sweet tooth. It's easy to see why humanity has evolved to enjoy sweet things, but thanks to the oversaturation of modern food with copious amounts of sugar, it's actually quite a harmful trait to have. Think about it. Having a sweet tooth in the past undoubtedly helped our evolutionary ancestors. However, not only is it now not needed, it's actually harmful and causes obesity and diabetes, among other problems. Still, the genetic basis of the sweet tooth is not going away. Humanity is, it seems, to use the phraseology of Thomas Jefferson, still wearing as a man the coat that fit it as a boy. We may similarly have a genetic tendency towards religion and faith, but in the same way that we now control our diets in spite of our sweet-loving nature, we should really begin to dismiss our supernatural beliefs for much the same reason. I've heard it said that religion is like a shoe insole. One might be needed for some duration of time to help shape a foot properly, but once it's served its purpose, it should be removed, and in fact, if it isn't removed, can deform the foot. Given what we now understand about science and the universe, religion is deforming us in this way. The point I'm trying to make is that yes, religion may have served us some evolutionary utility in the past, but that doesn't mean it serves any social or individual utility today. The insole has served its purpose. The foot of humanity can walk on its own without the support of faith and superstition. And once the insole is removed entirely, it may even be able to run. However, this is but one of many arguments for the utility of religion, and to help me discuss a few more, here's a criminally undersubscribed YouTube channel on whose own channel you'll find the second half of my contribution to this topic. A link is in the description. So, I'll leave you in the hands of genetically modified skeptic.
Thanks for having me on your channel, Alex. In further consideration of how and if religion benefits humanity, let's take a look at a few claims regarding the utility of religion. It's been proposed that regardless of whether or not the supernatural elements of any religion are true, religion is still beneficial, or even necessary, as it has served well as a tool with which to construct more cohesive communities, thereby benefiting our collective well-being as a social species. Additionally, it's pointed out that religion provides community even today, which is necessary for the health of any one individual and prosperity of any one society. First off, I have no qualms about recognizing that religion has in fact united countless groups of people throughout history. Perhaps it's even benefited humanity in that way. However, it seems that however many groups have been united by religion, just as many have warred against other groups who have been united by a slightly different religion. I'm unsure whether religious groups have historically more often devolved into exclusionary tribalistic communities or have just been co-opted by such communities, which gain their dysfunction by secular means. Either way, it's undeniable that some, if not most, of the most aggressively pernicious tribalistic groups in history, as well as in recent memory, were religiously united and motivated. As for the large number of religious communities which do not behave this way, I definitely acknowledge that they do meet a basic need in providing social support for millions, but I don't know that they provide anything which cannot be found outside of religion. If we take a look at the World Happiness Report's most recent data, it's apparent that less religious countries can attribute their happiness to social support just as often as moderately religious countries like the US and very religious countries like the UAE. When religion shows no advantage over secular sources in providing social support through community, but still carries the baggage of dogma which easily lends itself to the development of pernicious tribalism, it ceases to be beneficial to humanity and only serves as a hindrance. Another argument for religion's utility is that it has contributed towards societal and even governmental structure for millennia and does so even today. This assertion is verifiably true. Whether that's entirely a good thing, however, is certainly up for debate. I'll readily make the concession that religion may have benefited humanity by creating societal structure on several occasions. Although, just as I did with the last point, I must point out that religion has likely contributed to the destruction of a similar number of societal and governmental systems as it helped create. I'm speaking, of course, of instances of near total annihilation of other societies like those carried out by Christian crusaders and Islamic jihadists, but also of the instances where the influence of religion has made society to regress so that its government enacts laws which strip away human rights. Examples of this include the tyrannical rule of the Catholic Church in medieval Europe, which called for the death of heretics, the previous adoption of the caste system in India, which enforced adherence to assigned societal roles, and of course, to the legislation of Sharia in a multitude of countries even today. The recognition of the self-destructive and oppressive tendencies of theocracy is precisely what motivated the creation of secular democracy as we now experience it. Yes, that means that current Western society was not inspired by the Ten Commandments, but in fact was established in spite of them. The relative stability and resistance to corruption that our governments possess now, as compared to those of a few hundred years ago, is a direct result of the intentional exclusion of religion in government. This may be one of the best examples of Alex's previous point. Maybe humanity did need religion to progress in the past, but today we're faced with the reality that we no longer depend on it for progress, and even experience it as an impediment to progress more than anything. Perhaps if we stop thinking that we need our old crutch, we'll realize that humanity now has the ability to stand up on its own, taller than ever before.
In the meantime, I've been Alex O'Connor, or Cosmic Skeptic, with Drew, or Genetically Modified Skeptic. Don't forget to subscribe to both of our channels. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.